Hi everyone, it's Hamish Morrison. I'm a political reporter with The National. I'm here in the Supreme Court in Westminster today, where the Supreme Court has just rejected the Lord Advocate's appeal to basically, in effect, allow the Scottish Parliament to hold another referendum. It's a no. It's been blocked. Can't go ahead. So we're now into the slightly strange territory, where the rhetoric before this has been that the SNP and other pro-yes parties, the Scottish Greens, have also committed to doing this at the next general election, fighting not on the sole issue of Scottish independence. So Lord Reid read out the judgment today in the court. It was a very busy court. A lot of law students who I think were there for their own interest. And viewed the court was unanimous, which is why partly the reason that the judgment was so swift. Lord Reid had said that it was going to be, I think, 6 to 8 weeks when they first heard the case. It was sooner than that. The other part of the reason for that was because it was given priority over other things that the court was dealing with at the time. Christopher Hill asks, what happens now? That's a good question, Christopher. The Scottish independence parties, the Scottish Greens and the SNP, have both committed to fighting the next general election on the sole issue of independence and having it as a de facto referendum. Their opponents say that that's not legitimate, that they can't do that, but the SNP and the Scottish Greens have argued that you can position yourself however you like, and that will open up a mandate for independence. Now, that's quite vague as well, so that there's a question mark hanging over that. What that ultimately means, a mandate is what they say they have now. What they've said is a mandate for independence. So does that mean that they automatically begin negotiations with the Westminster government? Why would they think that that'd be forthcoming? But going back to the case, so it was quite a quick judgment. Lord Reid set out basically the terms in which they'd read it, which was strictly more or less looking at the Scotland Act, and the question, I think ultimately the court decided that they were answering was whether or not this bill or this proposed bill to hold a second referendum would be within the powers of the Scottish Parliament. And ultimately they said that it's not. Now, what's interesting is that this is slightly also a bit of a defeat for the Westminster government, who had argued for the court to throw the case out entirely. They had said that they shouldn't rule on this. It's hypothetical. This is something that the UK government does a lot with sort of when we go to the high courts. Hypotheticals, it's a matter of policy, it's a political question, you shouldn't rule on it. They've tried to do it a little bit here, and the court has the court's not taken that argument. They've chosen to rule on it. I think that the mood from a lot of people, the SNP MPs that attended the ruling today, included Tommy Shepherd, Anne McLaughlin, Douglas Chapman, Angus MacNeil, and a lot of them, I think their worst fears, the feeling that I got for them, was that the court would side with the UK government in that way and effectively punt the issue into the long grass and say, well, it's up for the Lord Advocate to decide. It's up for for the bill to be introduced or whatever, and then we can maybe take it down the line, which I think would have disrupted not only the Scottish government or SNP's timetable and plans for this, but would have also moved the issue into slightly more uncertain territory. What we've got now is an answer to the question, and you've even noticed that within the initial reaction. What Andrew Miller asks, what is the likelihood of Nicola going ahead with October 2023? Now, I think is the answer to that. I think not likely in the slightest. I think that this has effectively, if you like, shut down the chances of a referendum on October the 19th, 2023. I think it now falls, as we've seen pretty plainly in the conversations in the debate leading up to this point, that it is going to be the de facto referendum strategy. If anything else comes out other than that, I think that would be interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think we've already seen in the initial reaction to this from Nicola Sturgeon's statement immediately after this. She said that this ruling proves that the union is not voluntary, and this now presumably will become a central plank of the SNP's arguments when they're putting the case forward for independence. They say to those undecided voters, to those people who voted no in the last referendum, well, why would you want to stay in a union that does not, even give you in this way? We've played by their game, and we can't get out of it through the legal routes that we've tried to follow here. So that you're going to probably hear a lot about that. Davy Provan asks, can we make our MPs boycott Westminster? I don't think, from my conversations with MPs, that there's much appetite for them to do that. I think that they want to use Westminster as a platform to campaign for independence. Whether or not you think they're doing that vigorously enough is a different question. But I think that they are. I think that the appetite for boycott or sort of Sinn Féin style abstentionism, I don't see it there. I suppose you could petition them if you wanted to, but I don't know to what end you would be thinking that would achieving. So yeah, I mean, you can read the. I believe that the judgment will be made available online for you to read and peruse at your leisure. But really, if you want to get to the heart of it, it's the last paragraph, last lines. The Scottish Parliament does not have the power to legislate for a referendum on Scottish independence. We're now in the territory of, I think, uncertainty in a lot of ways. We have the SNP and the Greens saying that it's going to be a 51 plus share of the electorate to start negotiating for independence. If that is the strategy that they're going to pursue, that's an almost impossibly high bar for them to get. I can't think of the figures off my top of my head, but I don't think that that's been achieved in the last 50 years of any party. But yeah, thanks for joining us. We're going to have all the latest reaction and the updates on the national.scot. If you can follow us there, and on social media as well. Thank you.